Hi everyone, I'm Allie. Join me for this Pearl Flower Bracelet featuring multi-rows of right angle weave in a pattern to look like a flower. You can do this in a multitude of sizes as well as colors and even change up the pattern yourself. Go ahead and click below the video if you want a full list of the products that we're going to use for this design. Gather up your materials and a beading surface like a bead on a board and we'll get ready to get started. So to get this pattern design, we are going to be using a size 12 or 11 beading needle along with some size 6 white dragon thread. You can also use size 8 dragon thread. That's fine since we're not embellishing the design. I'm using the white here, which is hard to see because I'm using an opalescent bead. In my sample piece here, I used green because I was using a nice turquoise green jade bead. We're going to begin with the center row of our right angle weave, which is in a pattern, and we're going to feature 3 colors for our flowers. We are going to build the center row of this right angle weave here, starting basically with the bottom middle, and we're also going to challenge ourselves with 2 seed bead colors. The outer edge seed bead colors will all be this silver, and then on the interior of the flower will be that purple color. We're going to begin with a stop bead at the base of about 5 feet of thread. This stop bead is not going to be on my project, so I like to pick up an alternate color that is not included, so that way I know to take it off and not accidentally sew through. Because this is a multi-row right angle weave, you know that we're going to be coming back down the project, so you don't need to leave a ton of thread at the end to attach a clasp or anything to. We'll do that as we build. So to begin, we are going to start our first of our pattern. Where our jade beads are, that's where we're going to do these translucent check beads here. That's going to be the bottom of our box as we create. The sides of the box are going to be our pearls. We'll start our first one with this lighter purple color, and closest to the opal, we're going to put an 11-0 in the silver color. We're going to pick up our purple, and then we're going to put an 11-0 in the silver color, or sorry, in the purple color rather, because that's going to be in the interior. Then pick up the top of our box, which is going to be a 4mm bicone in that light pink color. And then we're going to do the opposite. Purple seed bead, lighter purple for pearl, silver seed bead, and then we're going to bring it into a circle to create our first pattern of right angle weave. When you first create right angle weave, if you are not super familiar with it, what we're going to do as we bring it in a little bit closer is we are going to establish our box. I'm going to sew through the project here, back through the opal from the stop bead, and that is going to round this out into a little square design. We're going to treat this as if the box here has the left side and the right side of the box. Every time we're ready to add new beads, we want our thread and needle coming out the right side of the box. The right side of the box is going to alternate between our opal and our crystal. The thread currently is coming out the left side of the box, that opal. We're going to go through the top, which is the 11, pearl 11. And then we're going to bring our thread and needle down through the crystal. Again, always exiting through the right side of that box. As we exit through the right side of the box, we are going to be ready to put on our next section of our right angle weave. The next section of the right angle weave for the pattern is going to be the purple 11-0, followed once again by the light purple pearl, followed by a silver, followed by one of our opal 4s, followed by a silver, a light purple pearl, and then a purple seed bead. Once you have those on, that's the bottom of the next box, the right-hand side of the new box, the top of the new box, and we're going to go back down through the left side of this box that we're creating. It was the right-hand side of the box that we just finished. Now it's the left-hand side of our new box. And see how we created that second right angle weave box. Just like when we finished the first one, we have to get over to the right-hand side. To do so, we are going to go through our seed bead, pearl seed bead through the bottom of the box we just created. And get that starter thread out of the way here. And then once again, we want to come out of that right-hand side. So you'll notice I'm kind of over to the right, but I'm not coming out of the bead yet. Make sure that your thread and needle are coming out of the bead. Here we are now, and that's our second box. The next box is going to be the exact same as box number 1. Picking up a silver bead, a pearl. This time I'm going to use the darker color of my purple pearl, a purple seed bead, followed by a crystal, followed by a purple seed bead, followed by a darker pearl, and after that darker pearl is going to be a silver seed bead. So what I've picked up here is I have picked up the top, the 11-0 and the pearls, or the 11-0s and the pearl, the right-hand side of the new box, which is the crystal, the bottom of the box, which is 11, pearl 11, and we're going to sew through what is now the left-hand side of the new box, the bead our thread was coming out of. As we do that, we have our next right angle unit, but we've got to get over to the right. So sew through the top, 11, pearl 11, and then bring your thread and needle out through the right-hand side, which is going to be your 4mm rose crystal. As you bring your thread out there, you'll notice that we now have 3 complete boxes. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do another unit with those darker pearls. Then the next unit, I'll switch to the pink. Then I'll switch back to the lighter purple pairs, and then darker purple, then the pink. So we're going to create that center section as a nice patterned area, creating the alternating of the 4mm Czech round and the pearl and the crystal as our left and our right beads on our box, and our seed beads, always the purple next to the crystal, always the silver next to the opal. Those are going to be how we're going to get the pattern for the flower to stand out a little bit more. Once you have the lighter pearl grouping of 2, you do the darker grouping of 2 darker pearls, then switch colors and so forth. You're going to do this the whole length of your bracelet, which by the time we add the clasp on, that's going to add about an extra ½ inch. So I'm going to make my center section here 7 inches. After you finish up this center line, we are going to do 2 more rows of right angle weave, one to the left and one to the right. So if you've never done right angle weave before, we are going to basically start connecting to the beads that are already there. So before, we didn't have any tops or bottoms. Now, as we create this row down here, we're going to already have a top to gain or to pick onto, basically. From here, you're on the last bead, and what I want you to do is sew through the bottom, which the bottom is going to be that 11 and pearl 11 collection. And this puts us in position to do our next right angle unit. Our next right angle unit, we need to do the right side, which is going to be another one of our light pearls, because we're finishing up the light pearls, a new bottom bead. The new bottom bead is always going to be one of your opal beads. On the bottom, we need to remember, just like the top, to put seed beads on either side. On the right-hand side then, same deal, one of the opal beads. We're going to sew back through the top of that right angle unit that we're creating, those 3 beads, the 11, pearl 11, and this creates our next right angle unit. Give a little tight pull there, making sure that it's nice and ready there for you. From here, just like we did previously, I'm going to sew through and come out through. I'm going to turn it so that way you can see it. I'm going to come out through what is going to be the left-hand side of the box. Right now you can see, or the right-hand side of the box. Right now you can see it's on the left. Look, ready? We're going to turn the whole project. And now we're going to continue in the same direction that we were building our original row. When we're on the outside here, Once again, we have our top already here, our 11 purl 11. And now what we need is we need our bottom and our right side. Our bottom is always going to be 11 opal 11. That's going to be our bottom section. Our right side here is going to be another one of the opal because we're done with our little floral section. We're going to sew into the bottom of the box above, which is going to be the top of this new box that we've created. If you don't know right angle weave, like I said, we have lots of tutorials for that. It's easiest to start not patterned and learn something that's not in a pattern than it is to start with a pattern. I'm just going to bring my thread and needle to the top here. I've got kind of pushed down below. Bring that up. And now what I'm going to do is once again get to the right hand side of the box. So I'm going to sew down through what was the right of the first box is now going to be the left of this box we just created. I'm going to sew through the bottom, which is that 11 4 11, and I'm going to sew up through that right hand bead because we're always coming out the right hand side of the box. Our next portion, we're going to continue our right angle weave. So we already have the left side of the new box, which was the right of the previous one. We're going to sew across the top instead of adding beads for the top. Our top is already there. It's the bottom from the box above. This one here, if you look to line up, we need our pink pearl for the bottom section of our flower. So I know I'm going to do my pink pearl, and I've got to do my bottom. You know, the bottom of the boxes is always that primary color number 1, that opal color. I'm going to sew back up through the left that my thread was originally coming out of, and that finishes that block. But I need to get to the right hand side of the box. So I'm going to go through the top here, the 11 purl 11, and then once again I'm going to come out through the right hand side. As I come out the right hand side and evaluate what are my next 2 beads, I know that I need to add the opal for the bottom, and I know that I need to add an opal for the right hand side, because you're going to alternate just like we did in the middle, pearl, opal, pearl, opal, pearl, opal. The only thing that's a little bit trickier with this one is that we're changing up the color. So here again, my bottom, coming out that right hand side, I need a bottom section, 11 opal 11. I need a 1 on the right, which is just a single bead without the seed beads, my opal bead. And then I'm going to pick up the top from the row above, 11 purl 11, and I need to get to the right hand side and connect this one, so I'm going to sew down through the left hand side of the box where my thread was originally exiting. I'm here, I need to get over to the right side. I'm going down through the bottom, 11 4 11, up through the top. Next box then, we'll continue on, will be one of my purple pearls, and then my bottom, circling around and continuing on. You're going to do that same thing on the top and the bottom of the project. As we get down to this bottom section here, we're going to add on our clasp and then start our 3rd row of our right angle weave. When you get to the end of row 2, we're going to get ready with our clasp, which I'm using a Rivoli Potomax clasp, and I'm going to just take the tongue out right now. What I'm going to do coming out the last bead of the end here, just like if I was getting ready to continue my next row, instead of what I'm going to do is add in 1 11-0 seed bead and sew through that next center bead. That 11-0 seed bead is going to be our anchor here, or the 4mm bead here is going to be our anchor for our clasp. So how we are going to attach the clasp, we are going to add 1 and 2 seed beads and a 3rd one. We're going to sew up through the clasp, and luckily there's not a top or bottom to the bracelet, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Get that starter thread just kind of out of the way. Go back down through bead number 3 towards your bracelet. Add 2 more seed beads. Sew through the 4mm bead from the opposite side, coming in from the bottom towards the top. So see how you just get that little triangle there? Guess what? Time to reinforce it. Go back through it 2 more times. Back through the beads, through the clasp, round around, back through the beads here at the top, down through the 2 on the right side, back through the 4. As I come out of the 4 this time, what I'm going to do is actually remove that stop bead. Push that down a little bit further, tie the thread end together. We're going to do this one more time as well after I go through the end a 3rd time. And then we're going to get ready to come down the opposite side. When you're at the end here, after you've gone through the opposite side, I want you to sew down through the bottom of that box. Just like we did previously, I'm going to flip the design. So I'm sewing from left to right. If you're a lefty, you can always keep it that way. From here, we're going back to the exact same pattern. Our first one, we always add 3 sides. After that, it's just 2 like we did the whole way up. On this one here, we're going to add the right side, which is going to be the last of our purple to get our flower. The bottom, which is going to be 11, 4, 11. And our right or left side bead, which is going to be another one of our 4mm check glass. We are going to go back through that base bead here that our thread was coming out of, and that gets us that little right angle unit. Coming down this side bead, you're ready to continue on as you come out the right bead. Now what I want to do is I want to add that seed bead there. So how am I going to get that seed bead there? I'm going to circle around my right angle weave. This is an important little thing to learn, that you can always go back into the design, kind of follow your thread path, just watching how I sew, adding in my 11, sewing back through that 4, kind of reinforcing that area, and then back through the right angle weave, making sure that every time you sew into the right angle weave, you are sewing along the thread line that you already have established. You can see I'm circling around the design. This is how you get ready to embellish and learn how to do those designs as well. And once again, I get my thread and needle ready. And guess what? Coming out the right side of the box. I'm going to continue down the row. You can see those flowers starting to occur. They're really cute as we add in the last of our pearl colors and continue with our opal color. Once you reach the other end of the bracelet, you can see how pretty this looks just on the wrist in that floral design. You can change it up so much by changing the colors, changing the pattern, even looking at it and creating it almost as a template that you can kind of look and create some graph paper and draw your own design. We actually have the graph paper to do so in our resources when you go to our website. So we'll do a little link to that as well. At the end here, what we need to do is get ready to add the opposite end of our clasp. So just like we did on the other side, we're coming out of and getting ready to go down this side to progress in our right angle, but we're done with our right angle. So instead, I'm going to go toward the middle. Coming out the middle, just like we did on the other side, 2 seed beads, a third one gets added. We are going to make sure when we're adding this that we are facing up, that the tongue side is going to be able to go into the Rivoli clasp side. Once we're through there, I'm going to come down through that third seed bead, splitting the line there then, adding 2 more seed beads, and then sewing up through that round. Once you have that established, go ahead and reinforce it 3 times. And just like I did on the other side, we are going to go in then and we are going to add some seed beads between the last ones of our opal beads. So coming down the side here, that nice tight pull. Make sure I'm not wrapped around my clasp there. Going through that 4mm bead, add an 11, go through the corner one, circle around that right angle weave, reinforcing. As we come back up then, going through all that right angle, you're going to go back through your middle one here. We're going to reinforce one more time. And as we reinforce then this last time here, we're going to go through the 4mm bead. Coming out the 4mm bead then, that's your opportunity to add your last 11 OC bead. So into that corner 4. And now we are going to tie off our thread. We're going to sew into the project through the right angle weave a little bit. Going right along, basically just letting my thread kind of get lost in the design. Making sure though, as I do so, that the thread edge is being considered, or thread end basically is being considered. Going through this right angle here, kind of zigzagging. And honestly, most of the time you come back through right angle weave in this way, changing the direction of the thread, circling around. You don't even need to tie it off because the thread is so entwined. But if you want to tie it off, I'm going to suggest to do so next to one of your clear beads, since that has the white thread near it. So underneath the bridge thread or underneath the thread where it loops from one to the other, sew through the loop that you've just created and give a nice tight pull and tie. You can do that several times while sewing back into the project, even more. And then just grab your thread burner and burn off your thread end to finish this pearl flower bracelet. Again, so many opportunities to make this a little bit different. Please comment and let us know exactly how you change up this design. All I have to do is grab some E6000 glue, glue in my Rivoli, and my beautiful bracelet is all done. Thanks so much for joining me for this pearl flower bracelet. Remember, you can change up this design in so many ways to make this little floral pattern your own. It's really fun to see in a different light. I know it's hard on the photography, but I can't wait to see your pictures in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Make sure if you haven't already, go ahead and click that link so you subscribe and don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for watching and stay tuned for more inspirational videos.